Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Boris Johnson fought back tears as he told the COVID inquiry he should have twigged the seriousness of coronavirus sooner than he did. The former Prime Minister arrived 3 hours early for the first of 2 days of evidence. The inquiry was set up to examine the UK's preparedness and response to the pandemic and to learn lessons for the future. The UK had a higher level of excess deaths than any other Western European country, bar Italy, between the period of 2020 to 2023.
In that period,
Mr Johnson said he should have cancelled mass gatherings, including the Cheltenham Festival. He apologised for the pain and the loss and the suffering, but defended not chairing 5 COPRA meetings on COVID in early 2020.
COVID was pretty much like a cloud on the horizon, no bigger than a man's hand, and you didn't know whether it was going to turn into a typhoon or not. And I certainly didn't. I was unsure. And it became clear much later.
The government failed to wake up, did it not? It failed to understand the significance of the crisis, and therefore it must follow. Failed to take steps speedily enough.
I think that it would certainly be fair to say of me, the entire Whitehall establishment, scientific community included, our advisors included, that we underestimated the scale and the pace of the challenge.
Meanwhile, various groups of bereaved families and campaigners protested outside the building. Many had travelled hundreds of miles and most didn't have tickets to go inside. Instead, they stood clutching photos of their lost loved ones, united in their anger towards Boris Johnson.
I just want answers. I want to know why this has happened, why he didn't learn from the mistakes of the first wave, why he didn't lock down sooner, and why my mum died when she didn't need to.
I'm going to be without my parents this Christmas, and if we don't learn lessons, there's going to be other families in the future who will suffer from government ineptitude.
He'll be remembered as a Prime Minister who presided over one of the greatest peacetime tragedies of all times in the world. And I mean, he's a disgraced Prime Minister, ex-Prime Minister. So I think his legacy speaks for itself.
Heavy fighting is taking place across Gaza, with house-to-house fighting reported as Israeli forces intensify their ground operation. Tanks are closing in on 3 areas: Khan Yunis in the south and Jabalia and Shujaiya in the north, where hundreds of thousands of civilians remain. The United Nations says 600,000 people are under evacuation orders in southern Gaza, but there is nowhere to go because shelters are so full. Russian President Vladimir Putin is making a rare trip abroad to the United Arab Emirates and is also scheduled to travel to Saudi Arabia. Fighter jets escorted Mr. Putin to the airport before the host nation staged a lavish welcome ceremony, including a display leaving contrails in colours of the Russian flag. Mr. Putin is expected to discuss the wars in Gaza and Ukraine, as well as oil production, with the UAE president. He has barely left Russia since March, when the International Criminal Court issued him an arrest warrant. Rescuers have found the body of the last missing hiker from a volcanic eruption on Indonesia's Mount Merapi on Sunday, bringing the death toll to 23. The search for 10 missing hikers resumed after being paused due to safety worries. The final body was recovered on Wednesday. The volcano spewed a 3-kilometre ash cloud into the air on Sunday, shrouding surrounding villages in ash. And Peruvian archaeologists have unearthed 3 Inca burial bundles belonging to 2 adults and possibly a child north of the capital Lima. The bundles, which were buried in an Incan administrative centre called Tambo Inga, are the first discovery of their kind since scientific excavations started 3 months ago at the site. The discovery will now be put under the scientific spotlight to hopefully shed new light on how the Inca lived in Peru 500 years ago. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.